Hello. We've got some wonderful news to give, and I wanted to deliver it live first. Usually we would issue a press release, but now that we're really trying to utilise live broadcasting as a platform for delivering our messages, I thought I'd save the good news for here, which we've only just found out in the past hour anyway. And we're very excited and grateful to announce that Morag Koussa is home and safe back in England. It's an incredible relief for her family, and I've just got off the phone with her children and they're ecstatic. Just simply, they've been hoping for their mother's freedom for the past 6 years, and they only just got in touch with us about a month ago. And we've given this case some press coverage. We've been taking it to the BBC, to the Scottish news in particular, the Sun. So it's been quite especially during the coronavirus time, this case has got quite a bit of attention considering the media competition that it has. But in Morag's case, what happened? She was married to a Lebanese man. They had several children together and moved to the UAE. She was working as a flight attendant, I believe, for Emirates. And anyway, his business ran into some problems and he took out some credit with the bank. And unbeknownst to her, she actually ended up signing as guarantor for this particular loan. And she was tricked into it. It was Arabic. She doesn't speak Arabic. She's an English woman. And her husband left and went to Lebanon and unexpectedly didn't return, which left her legally responsible for his debts, the debts that had accrued. Now, she tried for many years to get him to resolve these debts or to try to resolve them with the bank directly, but nothing had worked. And in the UAE, as probably a lot of you are aware anyway, debt is a criminal matter, and if there is any debt either in your name or that you're legally responsible for, such as in Morag's case, you're going to end up with a travel ban, and that's going to restrict you from being able to return to your country, in this case, England. Anyway, Morag had been stuck there for years. During this time, she was not allowed to work. So passports are confiscated, employment visas are cancelled, obviously, when there are criminal cases against someone, and debt is a criminal matter. So she wasn't allowed to work. She was stuck in the country for 6 years and has only just now been released. And for that, we're grateful. But again, it was due to international press pressure, to the spotlight being raised against this terrible behaviour that is keeping so many British nationals and foreign nationals stuck in the UAE. That's not allowed to work and not allowed to leave. So how are they ever going to repay their debts anyway? It doesn't make any sense, but it's still occurring. The prospect of jail is always hanging over their heads, but that's nowadays reserved for more serious cases exceeding 200,000 dirhams. But in a sense, it can be even worse when you're stuck there for years, unable to work and unable to pay your debts. You can end up in quite a terrible situation, as we found with our American client, David Oliver. He was in exactly the same situation. He couldn't repay his debts and he couldn't work. So he was facing homelessness. It was only when we drew international media attention to his plight that the US Embassy even got involved to negotiate with the bank, to put pressure on authorities, put pressure on the bank that was holding him there as a captive. And it's been the same in Morag's case. 6 years, nothing happened. She was in this terrible, never-ending plight. And as soon as the international media got involved, and that put pressure on members of parliament in the UK to support her, and also the FCO to support her, and ultimately has led to the bank withdrawing their complaints against her and allowing her to return home to her children. So it's amazing what going public or what doing things other than traditional waiting and hoping can lead to. So we're just so pleased that she's returned. However, it does remind me that we have so many other clients there in the in the UAE, stuck there. And Jonathan Castle is one of them. He's been stuck there for goodness, I wouldn't even know how many years now. It's been a substantial amount of time. Now, he has had a little bit of media coverage, but certainly needs more, and he needs a lot more support from the MPs in the UK to put pressure not only on the FCO, but also on the banks. We've just, a couple of days ago, we were just contacted by someone else who was in almost exactly the same situation. Facing homelessness. A lot of these victims are actually, in their 60s and 70s. They can't work. They're never going to repay their debts. It's essentially like being sentenced to life in prison in the UAE, deprived of seeing their families, deprived of the enjoyment of life. And what is it over? Perhaps a £20,000 debt, maybe even less. Or it could be a failed business, entrepreneurs heading over to the UAE and encountering issues with, say, the 2009 financial crash, or with this coronavirus economic meltdown that's coming up. Now, it's all of these issues that can cause someone to default on a loan or bounce a check unintentionally, and they can keep them in the country for the rest of their lives. Now, this is something that the UAE really needs to address. But Morag's case is a wonderful highlight of what the international media and campaigning can do to get someone safely home. But it also highlights just how important it is for the UAE to look at these ridiculous laws that criminalise debt in the UAE. These are not people who have come to the country and taken out a loan deliberately to abscond with the money. These are not fraudsters. These are either business people who have, opened a business over there and things have not gone as expected, as with any country. But you don't expect that it's going to ruin the rest of your life in some of these situations. We're also seeing people, expats venture over there, they have a job, and they take out a loan. They're very promoted in the country, taking out credit. And something unexpected can happen, a redundancy, and suddenly, within 3 months, that person is banned from leaving the country, or their employment visa, or something happens to prevent them from being able to work. And the travel restriction will come in. So if they had a chance to leave the country and get a job back in America or back in England, that's going to be taken away from them, and they're just going to end up in a constant cycle. We've even seen people, one man, a British national, actually had a stroke in the UAE, and he was in hospital, and they kept him there. His family couldn't repatriate him to the UK because of the debt, and it took an extensive amount of lobbying to even get the UAE banks to release him home from the UAE, even though he had a stroke and was never going to recover. I mean, this is the kind of senseless, absolutely senseless laws that people are facing every day in the country. Now, okay, so we'll celebrate Morag's freedom anyway. I mean, we're very happy about that, obviously. But this is also a great opportunity to remind people who are currently in the UAE, and at the moment with the corona crisis, we've been inundated with inquiries. What should we do? Should we leave the country? We're potentially facing redundancy. We've had a lot of people concerned that they will face redundancy, or they're coming up in the next rounds. If they are made redundant, what's going to happen to them? Our advice at this point is, if you don't have a job right now and you're hoping that you'll get one, and that if you don't get one, you're going to default on any loans or credit cards, our advice is to leave the country and resolve your debts from outside the country, because having the potential to go to prison hanging over your head is not the greatest situation to be in, and nor is being stuck in the country without a work visa and not able to get a job to pay off those debts, which can lead to you being in this exact situation, facing homelessness, or worse. Imprisonment, homelessness. I mean, the possibilities are endless. So, of course, our first advice is get out of the country, resolve your debts from abroad. The next question that we're often being asked about this is, well, what's going to happen once I leave the country? Are they going to come after me? Well, probably yes, they're going to try to come after you, and that can be in the form of harassment. It can be in the form of an Interpol report, or all sorts of tactics are going to be employed, international enforcement through courts. But the most important thing is to get out now and protect yourself, at least from being kept in the country against your will, or from being jailed. And once you're out, then we can deal with the rest of the issues. But thank you very much for watching, everyone. Does anyone have any questions? I might have missed some, but yes, anyway, we'll put out a press release in the next couple of days about Morag, and hopefully once she's rested and spent some time with her lovely family, she'll have a bit more to say to the media. But yeah, thanks everyone for your support. And if you have any questions about debt-related matters, Interpol, anything like that, please do just don't private message me. They might get lost, but do send us an email, and that's info@detainedindubai.org. And enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for joining.